Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're taking a look at the special version of Megatron that I had announced that we have. This is Megatron from the Transformers ride at Universal Studios. Now, of course, this Megatron would commonly be purchased down at Universal Studios since that's where he's featured at the most. However, I managed to find him at a visit to my local GameStop. Now, is he really all that fancy? Is he really all that special? Nope, he isn't. It is basically a version of Megatron in between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. So it is basically just a repaint of number 34 in the Studio series, which is the Dark of the Moon version of Megatron. Only this one comes with a lot less accessories. So we'll get this Megatron out of the way and we'll take a look at the ride Megatron. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to get him out of the way so we can see his unique backdrop. He has a backdrop that's set up to resemble the area at Universal Studios that's dedicated to the Transformers 3D ride. Now, I've never been to Universal Studios, so I can't really comment on the ride. I have seen a playthrough of the ride on YouTube, and, you know, it's okay. I gather the experience would probably be a lot more different when you're actually there and can experience it for yourself. But I don't know, Universal Studios is a bit out of the budget for a single guy that spends most of his time doing YouTube videos on toys. Oh well, we'll worry about that later. Let's concentrate more on Megatron here. And as I said, he's done up using the same mold as the earlier released Megatron. So he will have the same transformation and sort of the same accessories. They share two of them. At any rate, we'll start by looking at those accessories, starting with his gun. And it's done up sort of like a shotgun of sorts. Of course, it's also been a while since I've seen Dark of the Moon. I don't get a whole lot of time to sit and watch movies too much anymore. The curse of being a working man. But at any rate, it's also, just like the original version, there is a post here on this one side. So if you would prefer, you can store it on Megatron's back, like so. And then that way it won't come out of his hand. Although he does hold on to it pretty good. Now for comparison's sake, here's the one from the number 31, the Dark of the Moon version. And the gun is the same, it's just, I don't know if this is coming through on camera or not. Let's get them a little closer. And yeah, it comes through a little bit better. The Dark of the Moon version of the gun has more darker gray, almost a black color in on it, whereas the 3D ride version is more of a medium gray. So that's definitely something you should be aware of if you do happen to buy either of these toys loose. I don't see that as a very common occurrence, but you never know. It could happen. Now let's get the gun out of the way and let's get him removed of his other accessory, which is this set of chains wrapped around his torso. This is all done in a bit of flexible plastic, so it is soft and it will bend, which is good. Hasbro learned a lot of lessons from the 1980s with what happens when you use hard plastic on toys. And of course, this is also an accessory that came with Dark of the Moon Megatron. And Dark of the Moon Megatron's is more in the medium gray color, whereas the Universal Ride one is kind of almost brown in color. So it almost looks more like rope than chains. So maybe that's what it's intended to be. Makes more sense, given his alternate mode. Now, at any rate, let's take a look at Megatron's articulation, and since he is the same mold as the earlier toy, he will have the same type of articulation. His head can be turned from side to side just a little bit. It is on something of a ball joint, so it will rock up and down a bit. His arms can be raised out about so far, and they do rotate at the shoulder all the way around. His arms can be bent at the elbow about 90 degrees, and he does have a slight swivel at the bicep. You just got to watch that he's not catching on some of the kibble on the sides, but he has some G.I. Joe battle grip. Unfortunately, Megatron does not twist at his hips, so he does not have dance moves going for us. Unlike the guy in costume down at Universal Studios, who probably does have some moves. You'd almost need it to be able to walk in that thing. The legs can be spread apart, almost into a full splits. Megatron does not have a thigh cut, but it's more an ankle cut. So it allows you to twist his ankles a bit. You can raise his leg at the hip just beneath 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee 90 degrees. So he does have some nice articulation, and if you have more of the Transformers that appeared at Universal Studios with him, might make a great setup. Okay, we're going to get ready and transform Megatron. Of course, the first thing that it makes you do is get the chain off of his chest, and we've already done that. So then we're going to move on to the next set of steps, and they involve going around to his backside here. What they want us to do is start manipulating out totally the back of his legs. Get all this totally straight down. Get it bent around to the point that it's got the front wheel on the ground like it would normally be. We've got them down, so it's going to have to work. They also want us to pivot it to the sides. Like that, because we're also going to rotate him at the knees. Like so. Not at the actual knee joint, right down here at the lower joint. Once that's done, these protrusions at the side can be rotated up. And then the whole panel can be folded up and put into place. Get his arm out of the way there. Just like that. Then you'll come to these center points here beneath them on his legs and fold them out. Then we're going to come down here to the front of the truck. The pieces with the smokestack are going to be rotated all the way around and back and lock in place up front. So that's what you're going to do with them. There we go. Now once those are in place, we can fold down the front grille. And then the blades on the front can be rotated to the side so that they're properly aligned. Then we're going to scale back up to his legs a little bit where we have these extra sets of wheels. You fold them out so they lock into place. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to put the legs all together so that it forms the front end of the truck. There are a lot of posts and holes to connect and slot them into, so do take your time so that things don't pop out. Although some of it just might, just due to the fact that it wants to, purely out of spite. There we go, we've got it together. Now once all this is all together, if that bit would stay together, we take Megatron's back piece and we're going to fold it down, and it should, if everything's in position correctly, should line up and snap into place. And unfortunately it doesn't want to because these pieces keep folding in on me. Get everything to fold in on the inside and then snap it into place. Excuse me a second while I fight with it. Okay, now I figured out what I was doing wrong. You also got to make sure that his leg sections are pressed inward up here. Make sure they're all the way in and snug against these pieces that we rotated. Otherwise, they're just going to allow it to pop free all the time. Not that it's not doing a good job of it now, but that at least helps it secure a little better. Alright, now we turn around to Megatron back here. We're going to straighten him out a bit to pop his chest panel free. And then we're going to raise it up. So we're going to turn him around here. We're going to push his head inside like so. Then we'll come here to his shoulders. We're going to work these pieces upwards so they expose the back wheels. Back plate popped free again. It's one thing that I hate about these two Megatrons is they don't really want to stay together very well. Alrighty. And then next we come here to his arms. You pull out these panels and you're going to rotate them around. But don't push them back in. You want to leave them free and hanging loose. But don't be afraid if gravity gets a hold of them and moves them in your stead. Once you've got them rotated, you'll also open them up. So that way they're ready to be attached. Then you'll take the arms, you're going to fold them down at the elbow all the way down, and then bend them at the elbow so that they help form some more pieces to the truck. Just like that. And of course, once you've done that, sorry about that, camera shifted on me. Try to get it reattached to the tripod, that's better. Now, down and forward and don't move. Once we got that done, we gotta shift the chest plate. Fold down the area where his pecs would be. Get them folded down like so. And then we're going to bend the arms at the shoulders to bring them upwards towards the back. I don't want to do it. Now we bend them downwards and such so that it goes in like this. The arms need to be shifted a bit so that they'll go entirely underneath. Try to keep the chest piece out of the way. Stay up top where you're not in the way. Doesn't help, everything keeps popping free, so give me a second. Alright, to finish things off on this, because it is something that isn't covered very well, the arms do need to be shoved in by the elbows in as far underneath as they will go. Because that is the only way you will get everything to line up and hold the truck secure. But at any rate, that's how the truck looks when it's all said and done. They recommend you can attach the chain around to it, but I'm just going to leave it off. And of course, here is the Dark of the Moon version, so that you can compare the colors side by side. But we now get down to my thoughts on it. What do I think of this version of Megatron? I still find it to be a pain in the neck to transform. Especially since it does take quite a while to get all the pieces to shift and lock into the places that I want them to be at. So consequently, neither of these Megatrons is a favorite of mine. I do find them both to be a very, very major pain in the neck to try to get together into their alternate modes. The robot mode looks great as it is. Truck mode, it looks okay when you can get it into that mode. But I usually spend so much of my time fighting with it that I've given up on it. But all in all, if I had to say that I had to pick a favorite, I would probably go with the Universal Studios one over the Dark of the Moon one. I like the dark gray color on it. It just looks more like Megatron, or like how I have always perceived Megatron. And being a fan of the Generation 1 era, dark grays would work well as Megatron's color. Not all these desert colors that he somehow wound up with, spending several months hiding in the jungles of Africa. But that's just a personal preference of mine. But what do you think? Sound out in the comments down below which version of this toy you like. And that concludes my review of the Studio Series version of Megatron from Transformers The Ride 3D. I hope you all enjoyed it. Remember, if you do like the content that we feature here on this channel, please do remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is Sparkster1701 saying that I will catch you all later.